Hi everyone, it's me Spring, the fiber enthusiast, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to start part 1 of the poncho. And to work up the poncho, you're going to need a few items. You're going to need 7 stitch markers, and I'm using 6 with alike colors and 1 as my start and stopping point. You can choose to do this however you wish. But I like to use a different color for the beginning and end of the round. And then we'll need an additional 6 to mark off the stitch count. You'll need a pair of scissors, you'll need a darning needle, and you'll also, or a needle to sew in your ends, and you'll need a J hook, 6 millimeter. And some worsted weight yarn. For the brown one, I used approximately 706 yards of Fair Isle Liberty in it's like a brownish beige color as you've seen in the picture. For the tutorial, I was using 2 different types of yarn from Premier. And the first one that I use, that you see me using, is Everyday Premier. It's an anti-pilling, 100% acrylic. And I used, approximately 1 3/4 skeins of yarn for maybe 1.5. Let's go with 1.5 skeins of yarn, and they're 180 yards each. Now for the blue section that I did, which is the larger section, I ended up using this. It's also 100% acrylic. It's called Angel, but it's a 3-weight. I do not suggest using a 3-weight. This will make the largest area of the poncho considerably smaller. So you definitely want to use a worsted weight the whole entire time. I did it for the purpose of I had enough of this yarn to work up that section. I had, let's see, this is a 3-weight, and there's approximately 284 yards of it. And I used basically 1.5 of these skeins of yarn. So again, I do not recommend doing this in any type of 3-weight. This project is based on a heavier 4-weight, and that's what I recommend very seriously, to gauge it to a bigger size. Now the brown one is going to fit large to extra large. The blue one, in the blue and silver one that you will see in the pictures, is going to be more of a small to a medium. And both have the same stitch count. That's with using a worsted weight at the top of it and using the DK in the center. Again, I do not recommend using a DK for this particular project. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. This is broke up into 2 parts. You will have video 1 and then video 2. Okay, so to begin the poncho, you're going to begin with a chain of 78 and connect in the round. So I just placed a slip knot on my hook, and I'm chaining 1, 2, 3 all the way to 78, and I will connect in the round. Once I'm at 78, I will meet back up with you. Once you have your chain of 78, you're going to slide your fingers back the chain and make sure that it's not twisted, and join together. Now once it's joined together, we are going to work a single crochet round So join it together like such, chain 1 and single crochet back into that same stitch. And at this point, it would be a good idea to place a stitch marker. So grab one of those that you have handy and place a stitch marker in that very first stitch. And now we're just going to work all the way around, doing 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. You should still have 78 stitches at the end of your first round. Once I have reached the other end, I will meet back up with you. Okay, so I've come to the end here. I'm going to go ahead and remove my stitch marker for the moment and slip stitch to that very first single crochet. Now what I'm going to do is slip stitch to the back loop of that stitch and insert my hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop and slip stitch. That way I'm in the back loop at this present moment. Now we're going to chain 1 and half double crochet into that same stitch, into that back loop only. And now I'm going to place a stitch marker on my first stitch and just going to run it through the front leg of that stitch. Now for round 2, you're going to place a 1/2 double crochet into every stitch around. At this point, I will place a stitch marker on every 13th stitch. You will still have 78 stitches at the end of round 2, but you will have a stitch marker at every 13th stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and this is 13. So now I'm going to place a stitch marker on just the front loop, and I'm going to use a different color than my starting and finishing stitch marker. So I'm just going to grab a purple stitch marker here, and then I will do that once again. I'm going to continue all the way around with 1/2 double crochet in the back loop only of every stitch, placing a stitch marker every 13th stitch. And that is the setup for our next round. Okay, once you've made it all the way around, you should have 6 additional stitch markers. That is not including your starting point here. So you should have 6 additional stitch markers. And the reason I put them in the front is because we're working into the back loops. Then I can just work into that back loop and move my stitch marker after I've worked into the back loop. So we're going to join the same way that we joined the round before. We're going to go into the stitch, totally into that stitch. And we're going to yarn over and slip stitch. Then we're going to go in between and get the back loop only, yarn over and pull up a loop and slip stitch. Now chain 1 and single crochet back into that same stitch, the back loop only. And now I can move my stitch marker up to the front loop of that stitch. Now you're going to work 1 single crochet to the stitch marker. Do not work the stitch marker. You're going to work 1 single crochet in every single stitch. Now, where your additional stitch markers were placed, you are going to put 2 single crochets into that back loop. So after the first one, move your stitch marker up to that stitch. You want to put your stitch marker in the first of the 2 single crochets that you place into that stitch. So we're increasing into the stitch where the stitch marker is. Then you go on 1 single crochet into the back loop only of every stitch until you reach the stitch marker, at which point you will repeat 2 single crochets into that stitch, placing the stitch marker in the first of those 2 single crochets. We'll do it one more time together. All right, I am now to my next stitch marker, and I'm going to place a single crochet into that stitch. Move my stitch marker up to that stitch I just created. And now I'm going to place 1 more single crochet into that same stitch. And that's all there is to your repeat rows 2 and 3. You're going to repeat rows 2 and 3, keeping it divisible by 6. You're going to continue working on this until the edge, when you place it over your head, the edge of your work here is just over the edge of your shoulders, or just to the where your shoulder tapers down and starts your arm. I will show you what that looks like on me with the original project. Okay, so here's what I have. This is where I stopped. So it just goes over this yoke right here of singles and half doubles, just goes over the top of my shoulders where it starts down my arm. Now you can continue that a little bit further down your arm to, where approximately where, your armpits are, just above your chest if you would like. That is entirely up to you. This part of increasing, you can continue to increase if you would like. I did not, and I liked where it sat on my shoulders right here. So that is where I stopped. That's optional to you. You can do it whichever way you choose. So this is the part that we're working on right now. And then we will begin into more of the pattern after you've finished your yoke part. I'll meet back up with you once you have completed that section. And just, for mine, I did a total of 10 rounds of working that same repeat where I'm increasing on those 6 stitch markers on the single crochet round only. So go ahead and continue on, and you can work 10 rounds and see how it fits on you, and then we will meet back up. I'm going to go ahead and continue working on this one and meet back with you to begin the next part. Okay, so I have completed 10 rounds. That includes that very first single crochet round and then 9 more rounds. I now have 102 stitches. If you continue going, that is perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that your final number is divisible by 6. So at this time, I can remove my stitch markers from this part of the pattern. And there was 6 of them, so I'm just going to remove those. And we will begin round 11. Okay, so for round 11, we're going to single crochet into this very first stitch that we slip stitch to join in the round. So we're going to chain 1 and single crochet into the stitch. Now I'm going to replace my starting and ending stitch marker here. And now we're going to begin our repeat. Chain 1, 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and double crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, and double crochet all into that same stitch. So we have a double crochet, a chain 2, and a double crochet all into the same stitch. You're going to chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and single crochet to the next. And repeat. Chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into the next. Double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Chain 1, 2, skip 2, 1, 2, and single crochet into the next. You're going to repeat that all the way around for round 11. I will meet back up with you and we will finish this round together. All right, let's end round 11. Round 11 ending, you should have a chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch to that very first single crochet. Now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Into the 4th chain, you're going to place your stitch marker. So what this is representing is a chain 1 after that stitch and a treble crochet. I'm going to go ahead and mark that. Now we're going to be working into the chain 2 between the double crochets, so the top of the V-stitch, if you will. We're going to work a half of a double crochet and a second half of a double crochet, and that gives us 3 loops on our hook. Now we're going to complete those by yarning over and pulling through and chaining 1. We're going to do that 2 more times. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops only. Do that again, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through 2 loops only. You now have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through all 3 loops, chain 1. One more time. Do a half of a double crochet, another half of a double crochet, and now we'll complete those. Now chain 1, into the single crochet, we're going to skip the double, we're going to skip the chain 2, and into that single crochet, we're going to do a treble crochet. So yarn over your hook twice, insert your hook into the single, yarn over and pull up a loop, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through the last 2, and chain 1. This will be your repeat. We're going to create these clusters with the chain ones in between into our next V. So half of a double crochet and half of a double crochet. Complete it. Chain 1. Half of a double crochet, half of a double crochet, and now complete it. Chain 1. One more time into that same chain space. Half of a double crochet, half of a double crochet, and now complete it. Chain 1 and treble crochet into the next single crochet. So skip your double, skip your next chain 2, yarn over twice, and treble crochet into your single crochet. Chain 1. That is your repeat for round 12. Continue that repeat all the way to the end, and I will meet up with you and we will join to finish round 12. Okay, so now we're going to join round 12 and begin round 13. Where your stitch marker is where you're going to slip stitch. So the 4th chain, you're going to insert your hook and yarn over and slip stitch. Now we're going to chain 1 and single crochet back into that same stitch and replace our stitch marker. Okay, this is your repeat. Chain 1, single crochet into your chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip the cluster, and single crochet into the chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip your next cluster, single crochet into your chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip your next cluster, and single crochet into the chain 1 space. That is your repeat all the way around. We're just going to continue with chain 1, skip over to the next chain 1 space, and single crochet. Chain 1, skip, and single crochet. That is it for round 13. Go ahead and continue working all the way around to the end of the round, and I will join back up with you. Okay, so now we've come to the end, and we normally are putting a single crochet into the chain 1 spaces. For this particular round and instance, we're going to skip this last cluster and the chain 1 and slip stitch to that very first single crochet. So we're just kind of jumping over those and not putting anything in that spot. Now we're going to slip stitch to the very next chain 1 space. So that very first chain 1 space, we're into it now. And now we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, and 4. Into the 3rd chain, you're going to place your stitch marker. That is where we will connect at the end of the round. Your repeat is as followed. Double crochet into the next chain 1 space and chain 1. That is it. That's what you're going to do for this round. Double crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1. Double crochet into the next chain 1 space and chain 1. That is how you're going to work this round, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of this round and we will join in the round together. All right, let's go ahead and join the end of round 14 and begin round 15. So remove your stitch marker and insert your hook into that third chain and yarn over and slip stitch together. Now you're going to chain one and single crochet back into that same stitch and replace your stitch marker. Now we're going to chain two, 1 and 2. You're going to skip your chain 1 space, and on top of your next double crochet, you're going to place a double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet all into that same stitch. Then you're going to chain 1 and 2, and we're going to skip over the next chain 1 space, the next double crochet, and into the following chain 1 space, you're going to single crochet. Now we're going to chain 1 and 2. We're going to skip our next double crochet, our next chain 1, and into the top of the next double crochet, we're going to place a double crochet, chain 1, 2, and a double crochet. You're going to continue that repeat all the way around. We'll go through that again. Chain 1 and 2. Skip your next chain 1, your next double crochet, and into the following chain 1, single crochet. Chain 1 and 2. Skip your next double crochet, your next chain 1, and into the top of your double crochet, you're going to place a double crochet, chain 1, 2, and double crochet all into that same stitch, chain 1, 2. Skip your next double crochet or your next chain 1 space, your next double crochet, and into the following chain 1 space, single crochet. Continue working that all the way around. I will meet up with you once we get closer to the end of the round, round 15, and we will close up round 15 together. Okay, so here we are at the very end, and we are going to join to that single crochet here where our stitch marker is. So slip stitch to join. And now we're going to repeat what we did down here with the clusters. That particular row, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Place your stitch marker into the 4th chain, and that will be our connection spot. Now we're going to do our little clusters here in the chain 2 space of the V-stitch. So half of a double, and then complete chain 1. I'm going to do that 2 more times. Half of a double, and complete chain 1. Half of a double, complete, and chain 1, and then treble crochet into your single crochet stitch. And that is your repeat for the round. Chain 1, work your clusters with your chain 1s in between, all into the chain 2 space of that V stitch. And then treble crochet into the single crochet. You're going to continue to work that all the way around. When we get close to the end, I will come back and we will join in the round together. Okay, so now we're going to complete round 16 by slip stitching to the 4th chain where your stitch marker should have been. All right, here we go. Slip stitch. Okay, now we're going to slip stitch over to the chain 1 space. Now we're going to be repeating that single crochet, chain 1, single crochet row. So I'm going to single crochet into the chain 1 space, replace my stitch marker. Now I'm going to chain 1, skip my next cluster here, and single crochet into the chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip the next cluster, and chain or single crochet into the chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip the next cluster, and single crochet into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip the treble crochet, and single crochet into the next chain 1 space. You're just going to continue to repeat that pattern all the way around, and once we've come up to the last few stitches, I will meet back up with you to join in the round. Okay, so we are ending round 17 by slip stitching to the very first single crochet. We're going to chain 1 as our last stitch of the round and slip stitch to the very first single crochet. Okay, so now we are going to slip stitch over to the chain 1 space. And now we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is your first double crochet and a chain 1. Go ahead and place your stitch marker in the 3rd chain. And now we're going to double crochet. We're going to skip our next single crochet and double crochet into the chain 1 space and chain 1. This is our repeat for round 18. Double crochet into the chain 1 spaces, chain 1, and that is it. Continue to work in the round all the way around. Double crochet into the chain 1, chain 1. Double crochet into the next chain 1, chain 1. And you're going to continue this all the way around. When we get closer to the end, I will meet back up with you and we will finish round 18 together. Okay, so we're going to finish round 18 together by slip stitching to where our stitch marker was in the 3rd chain of our beginning chain. And at this point, you can continue to work in the same color, or you can change colors at this point. I'm going to be changing color. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and chain 1, 2, and cut away from my yarn ball here. Pull my loop through. I'm going to pinch that chain 2 and pull on that tail until that chain 2 scoots down to the work, like that. Now I'm just going to put my stitch marker back into that stitch for the moment. This is going to end part 1, and we will finish the poncho in part 2. Part 2 will begin our round 18, and to begin round 18, or round 19, I'm sorry, part 2 will begin round 19. When you end round 18, if you're following along with me, you will have 184 stitches total, 92 double crochets and 92 chain 1 spaces. If you are increasing to make this larger than that, you're going to repeat this section one more time, and it's going to allow for a lot bigger bust and shoulder circumference. If you do that, that's perfectly okay. Just make sure that your ending stitch count is in multiples of 8. So we're increasing all the way up to 184 stitches at this point, and that is multiples of 8. We will join back up for part 2, and I will have a new color, and we will begin round 19 together at that point. And thank you for watching. Be blessed, be a blessing, and until next time, bye for now.